Hey hey all, welcome back to Monday. It is June the 27th, 2022, and welcome to the first countdown of the summer season. And this is a question that caused a lot of people to get stumped. And the question was, what is the best Transformer to never appear in any cartoon series yet? That's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. That's right, hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. And this is going to be the top 10 characters who have not yet appeared in cartoons. Now, I say that because all of these, do have some fiction. They've appeared in comics and whatnot, but a lot of times those become very niche characters, and unless you're a comics fan, a lot of times you don't know much about these characters. If anything, in a lot of cases, people have never heard of them. Even when it came to the voting, people made two cardinal mistakes. One, they tried to vote for a number of characters when I specifically said one, singular. It's always one. For anybody watching this, every single time that there's a vote, if you're partaking in the votes when you see the question, the answer is one character. That's it, unless I specify that I want a group. Some people give me like 5, 10, 20. Like, I don't know how do you vote in your country? I don't know. The second problem was that people were voting for characters that have appeared in cartoons, but because they didn't watch a specific cartoon, they didn't know it. And it might not necessarily be an iteration of the character that they themselves know. We weren't dividing up character names by individual cartoons and saying, well, G1 Whirl was different than Cyberverse Whirl. A version of Whirl, some version of Whirl, has appeared in the in at least one of the cartoons. Actually, Whirl is an example of someone who's appeared in two, Rescue Bots Academy, as well as Cyberverse, right? So this was characters that have never had any version of themselves at all in any cartoon, right? So, with that in mind, we have our three honorable mentions. Those being Nightbeat, Thunderclash, and apparently Battle Unicorn, but I'm a little iffy on Battle Unicorn. Those were ones that got the votes. I'm not going to lie. I didn't look up Battle Unicorn. It's possible that that might have appeared in one of the Japanese series or something. Possibly. Just throwing that out there, but I don't think so. Doesn't really matter, because none of those made the list at all. And the ones that made the list have not been in any cartoon. Just wanted to reiterate that before we go, so you know what we're going to do. We're going to do like we always do, and we're going to kick things off with number 10 first. And indeed, kicking things off at number 10, we have this guy. It is Stepper or Ricochet, depending on the kind of fiction and the name that you want to choose. There's a lot of confusion over those names. Now, here's something that's interesting. In general, either iteration of the character is kind of known to be like a great marksman, and I think he's like a rapid fire shooter type of guy. Like, he's a gunner, right? But he's also known to kind of not be very personable. He has a target master partner named Nebulon most of the time, and he has a really strong sense of justice. All good and great. However, the characterization for this body type, for this guy as Stepper, and kind of the history of that fiction is a bit different than what it is for Ricochet. Nevertheless, in essence, they tend to be considered as the same guy, even though I think it's kind of debatable. So I did lump the votes together, but I understand if people would kind of nitpick and say, well, they're actually two different characters. I get it. But for the purpose here, whether you would like to see some version of Ricochet, or whether you would like to see some version of Stepper. Personally, I would like Stepper, since that name for this character existed a good 20 years before Hasbro ever turned it into Ricochet. Like I said, a lot of confusion. Either one, any way you cut it, Stepper, Ricochet took the number 10 slot. For number 9, we turn to the Autobots' resident woodsman, so to speak, with Topspin. That's right. So some people voted for both of the jump starters. I said no, only one. That's a pair. You got to vote for one. And shockingly, Topspin took it well over Twin Twist. Twin Twist had a couple of votes, but nothing compared to Topspin. Topspin, in essence, he's fine with battling Decepticons, but he likes a bigger thrill. He likes the thrill of kind of putting himself against nature, right? Against big mountains and deep valleys and deep rivers and rushing waters, and that's where he's at home. Like I said, he's kind of a woodsman, or certainly, I guess, an adrenaline junkie for nature, so to speak. But you know what? A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people haven't had a chance to know that, because Topspin has yet to be in an actual cartoon. Maybe one day it'll come, and maybe we'll get to see that nature-loving side of this guy. Sounds like a good friend to go with Beachcomber, if you ask me. Anyway you cut it, old Topspin of the jump starters, the guy who can change between modes in the fraction of a second, took the number 9 slot. Little quiz here at number 8. What Transformer can withstand 8,000 degrees Celsius? Well, it's none other than this guy, Artfire. That's right, Artfire is number 8. Artfire is a target master, usually bonded with, get this, Nightstick, if you didn't already know. Yeah, the Nightstick that we usually pair with Cyclonus. That being said, though, to be fair, he also tends to have another target master partner, Sparks, and I think his name's Sparks. And that's who I the target master that came with this Generation Selects release was labeled as Nightstick, but I use it as Sparks, to be honest with you. Basically, this guy is formidable. He's able to withstand extreme heat. He's also patient and kind, and kind of thinks of everybody's needs before his own, which can sometimes get him in a bit of trouble. Loyal Autobot to the end, often described as Canadian Inferno. I get it. Any way you cut it, whatever way you want to look at it, this patient, brave, loyal Autobot has yet to appear in cartoons, and enough fans feel that he deserves to, that he was able to take the number 8 slot. Coming in at number 7, we have perhaps the most forgettable Transformer in Rang. No, wait, that's not right. Ran? Wait, it's Rung. Right, it's Rung. And long story short, Rung is a bit of a little weirdo who is basically Primus. Spoiler alert, right? I think by now everybody knows that Rung is Primus. If you didn't, now you do. An interesting iteration, for sure. Certainly had an interesting kind of story in the more modern comics. Not a character I know a ton of, and honestly, even in terms of this little guy, I don't know what he transforms into. I'll say this, I think the MMC version done a nicer job. The forgettable, Rung. But he was also someone who, was pretty loyal, you know. He was a good guy, but just forgettable. And that's the way he was designed to be. Nevertheless, enough fans remember him, and enough fans like him well enough that he was able to take the number 7 slot. Now our little buddy at number 6 gets no respect despite having a very special arm. I'm talking about Scrounge. Scrounge turns into a tire. Kind of think a mix between Bumblebee and Wheelie. Like he's yellow and kind of weak and useless, like Bumblebee, but he's also very over enthusiastic, over eager. People don't tend to pay a whole lot of attention or put a lot of weight into what he's saying. Sometimes he thinks he's discovered something that's a big deal when it isn't. So, you know, when he brings new information, everybody's a little leery of it, so to speak. He's kind of treated as like the Autobot's lovable loser, so to speak, and he turns into a wheel. He kind of hangs around with Blaster, but like even Blaster sees him as a little bit of a loser, right? Scrounge. I mean, not a lot of people know him, and he met a sad end in the comic books, but it's hard to forget the Autobot that turned into a wheel. And enough fans remember him that he was able to take the number 6 slot. Ah, yes, you can feel it. you can feel the goosebumps on your skin. You can feel the excitement because we are at none other than the most coveted of locations, the halfway mark. And coming in today at the halfway mark is he who rules Polyhex with an iron fist. I'm talking about none other than Lord High Governor Straxus, sometimes known as Darkmount, the cruel dictator that rules Polyhex. So much cruelty here that there is no sense of pity, there is no compassion. Even Megatron gives him a wide berth. Granted, you know, Straxus doesn't really have ambitions of like global or universal conquest, but in Polyhex, there is none that can compare. In Polyhex, it is this guy's word that is absolute law. And those who live there under him live under the tyranny of pure cruelty, because that's what this guy embodies. Maybe one day we'll actually get a whole series focused on Polyhex. And though it's been mentioned in many a series, we've never seen the ruler of that realm in all of his glory. I'd like to see it. Just how bad is Lord Straxus? Maybe it's time for a cartoon to find out. But until then, enough fans feel like he has been overlooked in the cartoons that he took the number 5 slot. Coming in at number 4, I actually don't have a version of the character, though I did review it, and I will put a card up in the corner if you want to check it out. It is a character who's kind-hearted. It is a character who really tries to prove himself, and it is a character who was a Decepticon who changed size to become an Autobot. Although you'd never really know he was a Decepticon because of how low-ranking and sort of useless he really was. As an Autobot, he's far more. I'm talking about GotBot, of course, and as an Autobot, he, because he's a time machine, can help kind of protect different time periods from Decepticon threats and incursions, while also trying to protect the timeline. Naturally, this guy has only been in the accompanying comic book and has crossed over with Back to the Future and his human partners, Marty McFly and Doc Brown. But as an actual Transformers character, there is a backstory related to him. Not one that has been obviously explored in cartoons, at least not as of yet. Could one day we actually see a crossover character appear in a cartoon? Who knows? There's a few of them out there. But above all the crossover characters, the one that stands head and shoulders in need of a kind of a cartoon focus is the DeLorean time machine himself, GotBot, and he took the number 4 slot. Number 3 takes us to a wrecker who might be the diciest entrant on the list because it's Roadbuster. Now, some might argue and say, well, Energon Ironhide in Japan is known as Roadbuster, and he was in the cartoon. Yes, but really most of us know him as Ironhide, or a version thereof of Ironhide. There's the animated one that is apparently like a recolor of Ultra Magnus. Again, to my understanding, he wasn't actually in the cartoon. There's the movie version that was a wrecker. Again, though, that's not a cartoon. That's in the movie. So when it came to this guy, I really had people sort of clarify and specify because I understand that the name for this guy was a little bit dicey. In terms of being in actual cartoons, he has not appeared. Even the Transformers Prime kind of version was in Battle Tactics, but not in the show. So, Roadbuster, formidable, armed up. I mean, one of the biggest, baddest, bulkiest of Autobots. And when it comes to the wreckers, he's one of the most formidable. In fact, a lot of people that voted for this guy said that they would love to see a story that kind of pairs this guy up with Bulkhead. Imagine the brutality that could ensue. I think it'd be interesting to say the very least, and it would definitely not be good for any of the Decepticons. Roadbuster took the number 3 slot. Coming in at number 2, we go to the land of pretenders and Thunderwing, arguably the most powerful of all the pretenders. This is my custom Thunderwing. I used the body of the Age of Extinction, or Last Night was Nitro Zeus, and I used the Thunderwing head that came with I don't know, it was one of the Titans Return box sets. And I painted him up to look like, well, Thunderwing. As it is, let me clarify that when people voted for this guy, they voted for specifically Pretender Thunderwing. I point that out because there's the Classics Minicon. I actually have that here too. Little kind of blue and yellow jet. And in Armada, there was a Minicon version of Thunderwing that appeared in the cartoon. So people specified and said, no, it is the Pretender Thunderwing. Has he appeared in anything? No, he has not, other than comics. So, like a full-size, full-scale version of Thunderwing, yeah, you know, the guy could be a great Decepticon leader. I mean, he has power and ferocity and strength. His Pretender shell is probably the strongest ever made. Unfortunately, his biggest problem is that he becomes very single-minded, and that any compassion, any concern for anyone else, any notion of consequences, it all falls to the side in pursuit of completing his goal. He's probably going to complete it, but it's going to be at a terrible, terrible cost, and probably a terrible, terrible loss. That alone makes people not really want to work with the guy, because you're going to focus on the mission and you're going to leave me adrift. I get it. The guy is formidable, overly focused, and therefore a danger to himself and others. Nevertheless, exploring the character and the strength of this guy, come on, it would be interesting if nothing else, whatever cartoon someday chooses to tackle it. Who knows, maybe we'll revisit Pretender someday. Pretender Thunderwing and his might, his power, and his focus took the number 2 slot. And here we are at number 1, with one of the most renowned, formidable characters in all of Transformers. Also one of the most unique, with G-Axis. Now, G-Axis got his name thanks to, I believe, Simon Furman, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a play on words when he found out that the G2 comics were going to be discontinued. And he said G-Axis, and then it became this guy's name. Apparently there were a couple of GotBots, I think, that were considered to be used as this guy with repaints, but through the, you know, what we say here, jigs and reels, at the end of the day, what we actually got was a new character who has very unique origins. He was born through the budding system. I'm not going to get into explaining how budding works, but it was a form of reproduction in Transformers comics that was odd, to say the very least. He kind of saw himself as superior to the inferior Autobots and Decepticons and sort of above their petty squabbles and wars. He sought to unify all Cybertronians together, because anything that was Autobot or Decepticon was a relic of the past, the far distant past. In some fictions, he actually is seen as a pretty capable, renowned scientist who has a somewhat close relationship with Shockwave. Very interesting, mysterious stories and origins to this guy, even within Universal Collision. He holds a specific role, and a specific important role, as a matter of fact, in Season 2. He also kind of used the services of Lockdown in Universal Collision. Of course, that's my own fiction. He has never officially kind of appeared outside of comics in any of the cartoons, but I have to believe that if he ever does, when he ever does, that it will take kind of Transformers into a whole new direction, and that he may well be the most, not necessarily formidable, but certainly the most unique threat that has faced both the Autobots and the Decepticons. G-Axis should be far more prolific than the comics have even made him to be. Put him in a cartoon and see how much his legend grows. Any way you cut it, fans who know this character feel like he's been overlooked in mainline cartoon fiction long enough that he took the number 1 slot. There you have it, 10 down to 1. 10 Transformers who have not yet appeared in cartoons, probably appeared in the movies or in comics. They do have their fan following, but the type of spot in that mainline, you know, cartoon fiction that the majority of the masses knows, man, oh man, hopefully one day we get to see some of them. I'm going to say this now, there were a significant number of votes for Tarn, and he couldn't be included, though I thought he was a great one. I really did, and he absolutely by far would have taken number 1 if it wasn't for the fact that he appeared in Cyberverse. And he did make a big splash when he appeared in Cyberverse. Whirl got a significant number of votes, but again, Whirl, as mentioned in the beginning of this, has appeared in Cyberverse, as well as Rescue Bots Academy. Otherwise, I think both of those would have ranked really high on this list. Really high on this list. But they got disqualified for that reason. Some other characters who got votes but did not make the list included Iron Fist, Clench, Rapido. I'd like to see a Rapido. That'd be great. Who else? Wingblade, Flame War, Shattered Glass Megatron. Who else? Beast Hunter's Ripclaw. That would have been a cool one to have appear in Transformers Prime. Paddles, the Dinobot Paddles. Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. What a threat he could be, you know? What a threat he could be. Scoop, a double Target Master Scoop. That'd be a cool one. Torka, Ramulus, Polar Claw. I don't know if any of them actually appeared in the... I'm not going to lie, I didn't look up Beast Wars 2 or Beast Wars Neo for those characters. They may have appeared in those Japanese series. Vroom, Mohawk from the last night. Hasn't been in a cartoon. And let's see, who else can we throw in there? How about... Beast Wars Buzzsaw. Beast Wars Buzzsaw, right? Funny enough, Iguanus got a vote. And it was the Beast Wars Iguanus, which, funny enough, is the Iguanus that I thought we were going to get when we got the Legacy Iguanus. And it's an Iguanus that's actually getting a reissue in the Beast Wars reissue line. That's a lot, and guess what? There was even more than that. So many characters, such a rich tapestry of characters that can still be drawn on, pulled from, incorporated to breathe new life into the franchise we all know and love. Some of these, I'd love to see their comeuppance in an actual cartoon, one way or another, sometime or another. Maybe one day. Let me know if your favorites made the list. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring. Or of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, stick around and have some fun with us here on the channel. And especially don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single day, you right there, you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres or the old fashioned way right here inside the videos.